We're going to be treating today's video like a podcast episode. It might be a little bit long. There might not be a lot of cuts. So if you want to just play this in the background while you're cleaning or doing whatever, or just sit down and be fully tuned in, that would be awesome. Regardless, I'm just so excited to have you guys here. So let's get into it. I just turned 30 years old in July, and I can truly say that I feel like I'm in the best shape of my entire life. Now, that doesn't mean that I have lost a tremendous amount of weight. That doesn't mean that my body fat is at the lowest it's ever been. It's actually quite the opposite in every regard. Like, I am the heaviest I've ever been in my life, have the highest body fat percentage I've ever had, but I feel the most free and at peace with my body than I felt in a very long time. And I feel as though I'm doing the internet a disservice by not sharing this publicly, because it has truly been transformative in my life in every which way. We are going to be highlighting Pilates in this video, but there are so many things. This is truly like a wellness video in every which way. I found that the typical ways to get into shape, to stay focused, to stay on I don't know, just all of the things. There was a lot of noise around what I was trying to do. And if you're somebody who's been following me for a long time, you have seen me get on and fall off and get on and fall off. And that is not just with fitness, that's like with many areas of my life. I started Pilates about 3 months ago, and it was truly one of the best decisions I ever made. I started it right around the time that I found out that I was pretty deficient in vitamin D. I had actually found out like 2 years ago that I had a vitamin D deficiency, and I just did not take it seriously. And a big part of the reason I didn't take it seriously was because the doctor at the time was like, oh, well, you know, like 75 to 80% of the population is deficient in vitamin D. It's no big deal. Just start supplementing it, see how you feel. There was no consideration or discussion about, hey, here are some ways that vitamin D impacts your life when you are low in it. Like, it can exacerbate your mental health symptoms, it can affect your period, it can cause weight gain, it can make it hard to lose weight. Vitamin D is actually considered a hormone because of how much of an impact it has on your hormones. Don't quote me on that, but it's considered a hormone vitamin. That's all I know. The first time I got my labs checked, it showed that I was at like a 22, and the happy, healthy range is 30 to 50. Even though 30 is still kind of like on the low end, it's like, you're good, you're in the clear. Then this year I went and saw my OBGYN. So I've, bear in mind, been deficient for the last 2 years, just not taking it seriously. My vitamin D had dropped another 5 points. So I was now at an 18. She was like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and prescribe you a vitamin D pill that you're actually gonna go and pick up at the pharmacy. And basically it's gonna be one 50,000 IU dose. The average dose that people take per day is 1 to 3,000, maybe even 1 to 5,000. She's like, I want you to take this one time a week for the next 6 to 8 weeks. And once you're done, we'll check where your levels are at. I still need to do that. And you'll be good. And then you could just start supplementing it as normal. So I think once she prescribed it to me and I had my boyfriend in my ear, like, I was hearing that, you know, being low in vitamin D is not good for you and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, fine. Let me try it. When I talked about it on TikTok, there were a lot of women who were like, oh my gosh, I took vitamin D and it changed my life. And I'm like, how did it change your life? Cue people saying, you know, I didn't feel sleepy anymore. I didn't feel the need to take midday naps. I had more motivation. I had more energy. I found that I was hitting my weight loss goals. Or really, maybe it's not even that they're hitting their weight loss goals, but maybe the fact that they actually have the energy now to move their body in ways that they didn't have before. So something I struggled with was I was like chronically fatigued. And for a long time, I chalked it up to laziness, period. And that's just, and I'll do therapy and I'll take my antidepressants and I'll just try my best to stay motivated. But at the same time that I started taking the vitamin D is the time that I started doing Pilates. I had already done Pilates before. I'd been consistent for about a year, but even in my consistency, I was really only working out like 1 to 2 times a week. Even when I started doing strength training, for those of you who have been following me for a while, I did get really consistent and I was seeing really great results, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't enjoying the way that I was moving my body. Everybody's gonna have their own thing. At the end of the day, the exercise that is best for you is the one that you enjoy doing the most and the one that you can be consistent with. And this is something that I preached for so long. And I thought that I understood and I knew better than anyone else. But at the same time, as somebody who has ADHD and also has an extensive history in strength training and like a ton of knowledge in that field, I was like, okay, I do enjoy doing Pilates more than anything, but I'm also watching all these videos of girls saying, well, strength training is not going to get you the same results as Pilates, and Pilates is not going to get you the same results as strength training. Obviously, if you want to build muscle and you want this and you want that, strength training is the best thing. And so I stuck to that. Even though I didn't absolutely love it, I convinced myself that I did. I'm on a roll for 3 months. months and then I'm just kind of slowing down and I'm not really going as much as I used to go. So I was like, you know, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to try something new, cue Pilates. I have a studio that I've been going to that I really love, and I do feel like it's really important to find a studio that you love when you're doing Pilates. I have that, and I also have been using ClassPass, which I feel is just like an amazing combination because there are just like so many options on ClassPass. If you're in like a metropolitan city, I can't speak for smaller ones. I tried to get my aunt on ClassPass and she's in Sonoma County and there was like nothing available to her. I mean, there was like a few options, but definitely not worth signing up for a membership. I realized at the moment I was doing Pilates, it was incredibly challenging, but I think because maybe I was already taking the vitamin D and I was in a different mindset and I had no intention of continuing strength training, I'm like, I need to really see if I love this and I can really like do this like 4 to 5 times a week. Do I want to do this 4 to 5 times a week? I need to move my body more. I need to exercise more, but am I going to want to be consistent with this? Today is like my 3-month anniversary of just like being completely consistent with it, going 3 to 5 times a week. So it's been 3 months and I have had the best results of my entire life. They always say like the first week you'll feel it, the second week other people will notice, the third week you'll have whatever that saying is true. I've probably taken like 40 Pilates classes at this point. Let me show you my abs. Look at this. But my core, she is strong. She is very, very strong. My arms are super strong. My back is getting really strong. My butt is like truly like lifted. Like I wouldn't say I'm building muscle at the bottom of my butt, but it's definitely lifted. Like the hamstrings are doing their thing and pushing my butt up. And so many people have noticed. And that's like the best feeling in the world. Cause you know, when it's your own results, you're like, wait, is this like, am I really seeing this? Am I really having progress? Is this really happening? And then people are like, whoa, your butt looks like 3 inches higher than where it used to sit. And you're like, oh shit. Yeah, I think you're right. And I do feel like I've done enough sessions now as somebody who has a strength training background to say that the two are actually really great in combination. I will say that. I'm not doing that, but I do think that my extensive history of bodybuilding and powerlifting and strength training has made my results maybe happen a little bit faster or has helped me understand the Pilates method faster because I already have a lot of mind muscle connection. I have a lot of body awareness. I have really great form. These are just things that like years of practice has taught me. And so I do feel like it, you know, when they're like, okay, we need you to bring your belly button close to your spine, you know, you need to suck in your navel or, you know, plant your pelvis floor to the ground, like whatever these terminologies are that they say in the class, it was still a challenge. And because it was a muscle that I needed to build, because even though I had all this history in bodybuilding, the one thing that was incredibly weak was my core. But I still stand by the fact that my history in training has made the transition so much easier. And there is the conversation about whether or not Pilates actually builds muscle as opposed to strength training. And the truth is, like, everybody's gonna have their own opinion. Pilates girls are gonna be like, yes, it's building long, lean muscle. And that's not true. You're not gonna build long, lean muscle. You're not gonna look like a ballerina the more you do Pilates. What is going to happen is that your posture is gonna get better. So it might really feel like you have gotten longer and slimmer because you're standing about 2 inches taller than what you used to, or even an inch taller. And that image and perception of your posture and the way other people see you and the confidence that you exude can just kind of take up more space and make you feel beautiful, which is like so great. On top of that, a big part of Pilates is training your core. When you're training your core specifically through Pilates, if you're going to a really good studio, you're not just like training your core. You're not just doing crunches. What you're doing is actually training your transverse abdominis, which is kind of what people say like gives you those corset abs where it literally when you flex, you can actually see the outer perimeter of your body and like your obliques cinching in. And it's not going to be like that all the time, right? You have to be flexing to do that. I remember the moment I activated my deep core and like I flexed, I literally watched my stomach go from this to this. I could feel it and I could see it in the mirror. And I'm like, I have never been able to do that with my body. I'm gonna read this to you guys straight from Google. The transversus abdominis is a muscle in the abdomen that's part of the core and is located inside the internal oblique muscle. So you can actually see right here that this is that deep core that I'm talking about. It's the deepest of the 6 abdominal muscles and extends from the ribs down to your pelvis, wrapping around the trunk from front to back. It also acts as a girdle or corset by creating hoop tension around the midsection. I'm telling you, that's why girls are like, I started doing this and I like got a waist. I always had a blocky waist and now it's like more curvy, and it's because it's literally like sucking you in. And the more you activate your core in Pilates, the more that just becomes a natural position for you to hold your body in, because it feels wrong otherwise. Kind of like when you're always slouching, when you sit upright, these muscles are not trained. So it feels really difficult to maintain that posture. And now I'm like it starts to hurt me when I'm slouched over because my body's like, girl, that's not how we sit anymore. We're not giving those muscles power anymore. And it's a really, really beautiful thing. It takes time to build your transverse abdominis muscles, and like maybe it might even take you time to have that mind muscle connection. I think it hit me like 2 weeks in when I actually tried and I was like, oh, okay, something is happening here. But that's a part of the process. It's a part of making progress and like falling in love with the work that you do in Pilates. I can't say enough good things about it. What is Pilates? Pilates was invented by Joseph Pilates, and he basically did this to help, I think it was like war veterans recover from injuries that they had, or just people who had injuries in general. And a lot of dancers also worked with Joseph Pilates to increase their mobility, to stretch their muscles. A big part of Pilates as well is your breath. If you're going to a good studio, they're constantly gonna be cueing your breath along with the movements. And it's typically like when you're going in, let's say you're laying on the reformer, you're laying flat, and the resistance is pulling you back in. That's when you're taking the time to breathe in. And once you're pushing out, you're using that breath as energy to push you out. Does that make sense? Do I need to become a Pilates instructor? You guys are like, no, I don't actually understand a word you're saying. Pilates is really just meant to align your entire body overall, to help increase the mobility in your joints, and to also strengthen and work the smaller muscles and really deepen their stabilization on the primary movements of your body. There is also another form of exercise that I was doing for a period of time, but I did stop, and that was Lagree, which is developed by Sebastian Lagree, and it's heavily inspired by Pilates. Instead of using a reformer, you're using something called a megaformer, and instead of it being a low intensity, low impact exercise, it is a high intensity, low impact exercise. You are meant to basically fatigue your muscles. You're gonna be shaking, you're gonna be drenched in sweat, you're gonna get insane results probably faster than you would through something like Pilates. But I also feel like the process is different. The certification only takes 2 days to get, whereas Pilates need like 10,000 hours of training. They're both amazing. I love doing both. Right now though, I've decided to put more of a focus on Pilates. I have some rotator cuff issues. My shoulders are just bad from never really mobilizing properly when I was a power lifter. And so I feel like as a result, due to Lagree and the movements and maybe not getting enough form cues or being a little bit lost, or it just maybe overexerting my muscles, I just realized I needed to take a break because it was definitely causing a lot of strain on my joints. And it was actually kind of becoming counterintuitive because my goal was to work out more. I wanted to be doing Lagree. I was like, I'm gonna do this like 5 times a week. And then obviously like one, you're not even supposed to. They recommend going every other day. But I was also just leaving with more aches and pains than when I did Pilates. I would always leave those workouts like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to do Pilates this week because this was hard. Yeah, I was even considering getting certified in it. And now I'm kind of considering getting certified in Pilates because I just love it so much. And that's what happens. A lot of people end up becoming certified because they're just like, wow, this is the best thing in the entire world. But it did feel important for me to at least mention and pay some homage to Lagree because it was a part of the beginning of my process. Probably like the first half of my Pilates experience in the last 3 months, Lagree was tuned in there. And I think eventually I could see myself reintroducing it. But right now, Pilates 4 to 5 times a week is perfect. Let's talk about some of the benefits. Obviously, we know straight off the bat that it is going to increase your core strength. I recently did a shoot, but I basically did a plank. They're like, we just want to see like how long you can hold a plank. And then when you come back for your next shoot, we'll see if it's like gotten any better or whatever. I'm like, okay, great. Like that sounds fun. Y'all, I held it for 90 seconds. Didn't know what the time was. There was like 10 people watching me, 3 cameras on me, studio light, the end of my shoot day. I'd been there for 8 hours and I held it for 90 seconds. I think that's so impressive. I was so proud of myself, and I actually want to see if I can hold it longer now. I might have to try that. I think I could hold it for 2 minutes. I thought I held my plank for 45 seconds because 30 seconds was a challenge for me once upon a time last year. And so 90? Come on. And obviously there are a ton of benefits, like I mentioned before, in increasing your core strength and specifically your pelvic floor, your transverse abdominis, or your deep core. Main things that you're gonna notice is potentially and hopefully a decrease in pain for your back and your hips. You're gonna feel an overall like alignment, which we'll talk about later. Another thing that I've noticed personally when I've taken friends with me to Pilates, at the studio that I go to, I'm allowed to take 1 guest per month that has never been there before. And for a lot of people, it's been their first time taking Pilates. And the one thing they say is like, oh, I feel so energized. Like I feel like I can go home, take a shower, do the rest of my day, and I don't feel totally gassed. And it's absolutely true. Because of the fact that it's low impact and there's such a focus on your breathing, you're obviously just releasing like a ton of endorphins, makes you feel good. But I sweat every time I do Pilates, but I'm not like drenched in sweat. I don't know, it just doesn't leave you feeling immobilized. Something about the nature of the exercise is really rewarding and like leaves you inspired to start the rest of your day, which is also a big part of the reason I love doing Pilates in the morning. I did an 8 a.m. today, did an 8 a.m. yesterday. It's the best. This one could be slightly controversial, and it does have to do with food. So if you feel like that's something that could be a trigger to you, you can definitely skip this part. But I'm gonna do my best to talk about this in a way that could not be potentially triggering, because I'm also somebody who gets triggered when talking about food. The reason that maybe potentially girls end up losing weight when doing Pilates, in my opinion, is because Pilates is not just a workout, it really is a mindset. And when I say mindset, I truly mean that. Like, you're going, you're showing up, you're being really present. The more you do this, kind of like with yoga, you become really, really in tune with your body, with your emotions, with your feelings, with muscles. And also, you become really in tune with your appetite. And a lot of the times after you do an exercise like this, like I want fruits, I want a bowl, I want something to nourish my body with. Whereas like when I would do strength training, and again, this is different for everyone because there are a lot of strength trainers who eat the same way Pilates people do. It can all kind of be the same. It's based off of everyone's individual experience. I just find that my appetite is not as intense as it used to be. I'm really aware of what I'm putting into my body, but I'm also like still eating ice cream every day, and I'm still getting burgers. The cravings are not as intense as they once were. And also I've noticed that the more I've done Pilates, the less I have wanted to smoke weed, which has been really interesting. Maybe it's just like me getting older, but I've just been less drawn to it, although I really wish I had it for this video because I've been struggling filming this video, and you guys will never know because I'm gonna have edited it to show that I was not struggling. Looping back into the body awareness conversation though, a big benefit that a lot of people will notice, especially people who struggle with high cortisol, which I'm sure so many of us do, just like with the vitamin D deficiency, because this is a low impact exercise and there's such a focus on body awareness, such a focus on breath work, this can actually end up reducing your cortisol, which can help things, which can actually down regulate your nervous system, which can have a ton of positive benefits such as reducing your fight or flight response, lowering your cortisol levels, and even just like decreasing stress naturally. It's just a movement that really encourages you to slow down, look inward, connect inward, and fall in love with the process. I don't have enough good things to say about it. I love it. It's changed my life. It's the only reason that I have motivation to exercise these days. Working out 4 to 5 times a week, I'm sometimes like, do I do 6 to 7? My body's like, no girl, you need to take a break. There is nothing more rewarding than finding an exercise that you love, feeling yourself get stronger, seeing the muscle build, and just seeing the positive impact that it has on your life. Find the exercise you love, do it, be consistent with it, find one that you're excited to do every day, find something that really does feel like your escape. Not anymore. But I'm just so happy I found Pilates. I feel like I'm more in tune with my feminine, I feel more confident, I definitely notice the posture changes, obviously my abs coming in, my leg muscles coming in. It's really just been like a transformative journey, and I'm so excited to see where the rest of my Pilates practice takes me. I am definitely considering getting certified, but I also know that like I have ADHD and I announce things all the time. I'm like, I'm starting a podcast, I'm starting this series, I started a new channel, and then like everything doesn't follow through. So we're gonna keep it at I'm considering it. I'm considering it. We'll see what comes. If you guys want me to do more content surrounding Pilates and maybe my journey around it or whatever, I would love to. Just share some ideas with me in the comments. And thank you guys so much for tuning in with me today. I would love to hear what exercise you guys do and why it's had such a positive impact on your life. It does not need to be Pilates. It could be HIIT training. It could be calisthenics. I don't care. I want to hear it. I just love it. I just love to hear people being excited about moving their bodies. And I had to know that my love for working out still existed inside me. It's just existing a little bit differently now. That's it. Thanks for letting me blab your ears off. Have a beautiful rest of your day and go work out. Bye.